On this episode of the podcast, I have with me JD Hannick. He is an executive advisor to Fortune 500 and PE firms within the consumer data advisory space. He's got extensive background, having worked for Foot Locker, some really large consumer companies. We're going to let him do a little quick bio. He's worked for Adobe, Booz Allen Hamilton, so he really understands the intersection of data, consumers, and transformation. We're actually going to be talking on this episode a little bit about transforming data in the consumer industry. Obviously, we're also seeing a rise of AI and what everyone wants to do with it. So there's definitely areas of opportunity. Understanding some of those transformation needs based on industry is really important. And obviously, everyone wants to improve that customer experience. So we're going to see how much we can get through with JD. I appreciate you being on the show. Thanks.
Thanks, Amir. I really appreciate it. As Amir mentioned, JD Hannick, my expertise really spans across the consulting, operating, and software as a service vendor realms. So from that, I bring a breadth of experiences into my current engagements around how to use data, how to monetize, how to leverage, and ultimately where things are going in the future. So looking forward to the discussion.
Obviously, within the consumer industry, everyone wants a great consumer experience. Everyone wants to make sure their customers are happy. Is there a different perspective based on different verticals within the consumer space, or are we all really striving for the same thing?
Yeah, a lot of what I see is really trying to meet the customer at where their expectations are, and the expectations are high, and some industries are a little bit closer to meeting those expectations than others. But ultimately, as we engage, we enjoy, or the customer enjoys, personalization. They like seamless journeys across channels, things that can be unlocked with a number of different machine learning and AI sort of implementations across different industries. In areas like retail, we've probably had that for quite some time. You have a little bit of a bifurcation in digital first brands versus omni-channel brands, or legacy, brick and mortar brands that have gone towards omni-channel. But we see it in travel and hospitality, a lot of really interesting use cases there. And increasingly, you have your financial services and some of those more highly regulated industries that are trying to figure out what it means in the era of data privacy and protecting some of those critical customer data assets as they deliver experiences that might be akin to those in other more forward industries.
When we're talking about, finding areas of opportunity, obviously, AI is a big component, Gen AI, of what everyone's trying to do, try to bring streamline and automate things that are taking too much time, potentially, surface things that are just not, we're not aware of as humans looking at things. Are you seeing, I guess, I'm sure there's a big conversation around, AI, Gen AI, whatever we want to call it within consumer industry. But are you seeing people actually implement past pilot? Are you seeing a lot of things at pilot? Or, what are you seeing generally across the industry?
Yeah, I would break it up into a few different ways that companies are using or leveraging AI. There are areas where they've had existing relationships with software vendors, and those vendors are infusing their products with AI, a little bit less ownership, or maybe a little shared ownership over that AI, and understanding how you can influence it. You have a second bucket that is really, now with this new entrance of, models, foundation models that are out there, being able to build and engage with your data in a different way. And then, I think there's kind of that blend where people are looking at, well, do I have the right vendor mix? Do I have the right tool sets to be able to leverage AI? I don't necessarily want to build everything myself, but I want to be able to get some of that value in the learnings that are happening across industries. In large part, I would say the pilots and where things are further along. A lot of organizations are testing internal use cases first, things like chatbots and what have you to answer, HR questions and be able to engage with the employee and kind of behind the veiled curtain to start. But that said, you've had machine learning and AI implementations in pricing models and recommendation engines for a number of years, and those are only getting stronger and faster and better with better data assets and better tooling.
Absolutely. I guess when you're looking at some of the shifts that are happening in the consumer industry, obviously direct to consumer has been a big one in the last 10, 15, 20 years. We've seen just the boom of direct to consumer, and obviously with that we're seeing companies get a little bit closer to their customer, understanding that first party data better. As you're seeing the industry and you're seeing the opportunities to improve customer service, what's been the impact of that first party data?
I would say first party data is really where the next generation of AI is going to get its teeth and get the actual traction and value out of what you're able to build. So you're seeing a lot more interest from companies and organizations around what are my data assets? How do I bring in orthogonal data assets that add value to what I'm trying to do? So I'm not collecting the world of data, but I'm collecting the right data that I can build insights or improve my supply chain or be able to enhance my operations as I'm looking to service that customer better. And first party data is where you start. I can see down the line what the next natural step in the evolution is. As you build that first party data, it's really then how do I create the right data sharing agreements or integrate with other people that are in the ecosystem to understand data that they might have that can ultimately help build what I'm trying to do within my organization and meeting my customer needs and wants.
As you're kind of looking at the industry and you're looking at where people are trying to, optimize or find those areas of opportunities to improve customer experience, improve the, how the company interacts with their end user. What are you seeing in terms of those particular areas that might be at the top of most executive minds?
Yeah, I would say it's really understanding the context within the leading organization. What they're looking for is, well, what's the context within a decision point that a customer might be in? So as you're going along a customer journey, really understanding, well, where are those inflection points where I might be able to influence a purchase decision or a travel decision or a financial decision that somebody is making within their own journey. One area I always reference is that context can really be as simple as one data point, the context of who you're with many times. So if I'm traveling and I'm traveling with a business colleague, or I'm traveling with my family, or I'm traveling with friends, those are three different experiences that I might have with an airline, and I could be interested in different perks or different upgrades, different types of surprise and delight moments that can ultimately enhance my customer loyalty to the brand that I'm looking to align with. And really that brand building is something that's important with data. As you build that relationship with the customer, there's a trust that you're building as well. And that trust is shown by the customer in the data with which they're willing to share with you for the products and services that you provide. And likewise, you're then able to take that and harness it to be able to provide those experiences that will further the relationship and deepen it in a meaningful way to improve customer lifetime value.
Absolutely. I guess as you're kind of looking at the landscape, obviously, in the last couple of years, we've seen rates just go through the roof. Startups have had to slow hiring because obviously that's affected the funding they've gotten. Funding had slowed down. We're seeing a little bit of pickup. Private equity has changed a bit of their strategy in terms of how they're interacting with companies. Don't see as many direct-to-consumer brands launching. Obviously, we're seeing a little bit of a shift right now in just the fact that monetary conditions have been a little different than what we've been accustomed to. I guess, what are you seeing in terms of data initiatives where companies are funding these projects, and potentially how large corporations or even maybe private equity firms, when they're trying to invest and try to find those opportunities, how are those all intersecting with each other?
It's a great question, and you mentioned private equity. I'm seeing a lot of increased interest. There are roles at private equity firms for operating partners in the data space that 5 years ago did not exist, and now they're bringing people both in-house or engaging with people like myself or other outside experts to be able to understand at different places within the deal flow how they might be able to leverage data, understand how their organizations and portfolios, companies are leveraging data to ultimately grow. In the past, private equity has one of their key value levers has been, multiples, borrowing money at low interest rates and being able to hold for a period of time and ultimately exit at a higher value based on the money that they held. Now, in an inflationary environment, in an environment where rates are higher, that you see private equity firms really looking at, well, how do we infuse our companies, our portfolio companies with growth or margin expansion to be able to increase the value and really create value that is meaningful and creates better potential exit opportunities down the line. So you're seeing a lot of private equity firms, at least in the front end, in investment decisions, understand, well, how ripe is a potential investment for data? What are their data assets look like, and how might they be able to be levered or used in the future? What opportunities are there for growth? What operational efficiencies are? And then as the companies, the private equity companies, make those investments, the lens turns to how do we support the management teams and understand where there might be opportunities and where the roadmap might be for those organizations to grow their own businesses as they partner with the private equity firms.
Are you, I guess, just out of curiosity, because as we're seeing a lot of interest in emerging technologies, Gen AI, we're seeing lots of conversations about pilots, finding those low-hanging fruit. When it comes to consumer industries, type businesses, what are some of those areas where you'd envision a Gen AI solution could make or could move the needle? Obviously, we want to, we need to move the needle. We need to show ROI to keep the investment going. But where are some of those areas that you foresee?
Ultimately, I'm a big believer with the Gen AI wave that we're through, is that we're in the midst of right now, that the next part of that wave is going to be agentic, and agents really influencing what decisions we make and how we make those decisions. So in the past, a lot of that low-hanging fruit has been around how do I use machine learning and AI to influence search engine optimization and digital marketing as I look to really fill the top of the funnel of my customers. Well, now in an environment where cookies are deprecating over time, and you have environments that are, the recommendation isn't a page full of hyperlinks and blue links to click, and you understand that, versus an actual recommendation on what you're looking to build, and you, the brand, might not own that channel where the influence is happening. So I think some of the low hanging fruit is really in that space. How do I get my content and understand that my data assets are helping feed where those agentic workflows are building the recommendations and providing really good experiences and reviews and what have you. But down the line, I think I could envision an environment where you have an agent of agents over top that people engage with, but there are agents. If you are, I used to work for Foot Locker, so if you're a Foot Locker, do you have a sneakerhead agent that really is helping the sneakerhead identify, well, what releases are coming up, what's the launch calendar, and how do I engage with that? And that feeds a whole decision set of perhaps a budgeting agent that then works with an individual to say, here are the goals that you have, and you have these desires or things that you're looking to. How do I fit that in? So I think there's a lot of interconnection that can happen down the line, and the low hanging fruit right now is really, how do I build the right relationship with those customers through pricing and recommendation engines, and start thinking about these agentic workflows as they move forward.
I mean, that obviously, I mean, just the experience would be very compelling to interact with somebody that has the level of interest, the level of depth that a sneakerhead does, or an audiophile if they're looking for you had headphones or something. I think that'd be really interesting, because I think a lot of times what's missing is that identification. I think that there are some brands that do a really good job of that without AI, because that's just part of the culture. The Lululemons, the Apples, people identify with them, and it's easy for them to feel like they belong. And I think some of the other brands, I don't know if and again, those are just two random ones, obviously, but there's a ton more out there. But I think it'd be interesting, as you're kind of describing it, to have that connection and see how it changes and what kind of advantages companies are going to get without having built that legacy of the why maybe in the past.
Yeah, and I would say it all starts with the data that you're building and the relationships that you're building with your customer. Back to those, that trust, really central around the data quality, data privacy, but building those relationships over time to make sure that you have, if you have a product, what are the reviews that are coming out there? How do I really take feedback from those reviews? Not only put it into the future product that I put in the market, but then build that recognition or the feedback loop in, so that I see those reviews improve over time, and understand, those levers, understanding our data and analytics in a way, which is going to be another really easy way for companies to influence their operations with LLMs and Gen AI, is just being able to explore their own data in a more natural language way versus SQL queries and pulling and relying on other organizations or teams within your company to deliver you data products. So I think that it all ties together in what you're looking to do as a company as you move forward to a really data-driven organization.
Brilliant. JD, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. I know we just have scratched the surface. We haven't even gotten into some of the nitty gritty, but I'm sure if somebody has a follow-up question, what would be a good way of connecting with you to kind of pick your brain?
Yeah, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I check that and I'm pretty active there. But I always welcome a follow-up conversation and engaging with people, especially in the area of consumer and private equity. Those are two areas where I see a lot of really interesting innovation happening over the next 5 years. And I love to be able to influence and have a part in helping organizations move forward in those realms.
Brilliant. We'll make sure to include your LinkedIn profile, the URL in the show notes, so people can click on it, connect with you, and make sure they follow up with you if they have any questions. But I really do appreciate your time. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Amir.
Absolutely. That's it for the episode. Be back again, different guest, different topic. Until then, two things. One, I actually think what JD said about that consumer experience and having agents really be able to connect with people. I mean, I think that's going to be an interesting game changer for companies that maybe have never had that, but really you need that fundamental data. I wonder if it's going to level a lot of the competition, how people are going to start looking at data to be able to get to those insights. Because if you don't have the data, can't really build those applications. But yeah, connect with JD. He's an expert. He's got a background within the space. So I'm sure he'll have some great insights for you if you need to follow up with them. Like, subscribe, comment, review. Let me know how the podcast is going for you. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.